Hi, this is Monica. Thank you for joining me for today's Vinyasa Flow sequence video. In this video, we are going to be going over the sequence of 4 poses that comprises what we consider a Vinyasa flow in a Vinyasa style yoga class. So we will also break down these kind of nuances between this word vinyasa and its various meanings. And then we're going to break down each of these poses individually that comprise this sequence. And I'm going to offer you some modifications to build into this sequence and also some elevations, some advancements if you want to take this a little bit further. So thank you again for joining me. And before we get started, take a moment to inhale and exhale. Vinyasa. You may have heard this word used in multiple different ways when it comes to the practice of yoga. The word vinyasa in Sanskrit actually means to place in a particular way. So when I think of this, I think of this intention behind your movement. So kind of being intentional with the way that you're moving. To me, that is such a foundation of the practice of yoga. So when we take it a little bit more broadly, the word vinyasa is also considered to be a modern style of yoga that has originated from Ashtanga yoga. Whatever studio you're attending, maybe on the schedule, they have a Vinyasa Flow yoga class. So this is what's typically thought to be the flow style class, where you're moving intentionally, breath to movement, and the breath is carrying you through this sequence series of yoga postures. Beyond that, vinyasa, actually, we refer to it within the vinyasa style yoga class as this specific particular sequence of postures. So this is what we'll be covering today, and this is what I'll be referring to when I'm referring to the vinyasa. It's when you hear the yoga teacher say, take a vinyasa, move through your vinyasa. This vinyasa is actually a sequence of poses that consists of 4 poses. The first is high plank, Phalakasana. The second, 4-limbed staff, Chaturanga Dandasana. The third, upward facing dog, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. And the fourth, downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. So we'll be going through this sequence today. We'll be breaking down each of these poses. First, I'll flow through one vinyasa sequence of these 4 poses to show you what this looks like. So again, the 4 poses, we start in high plank, Phalakasana. We then lower into Chaturanga Dandasana, 4-limbed staff. We shift into upward facing dog, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. And then shift finally into downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. An important part of this vinyasa sequence is actually the breath that corresponds with each movement. So I will run through another flow here and actually explain to you which breath corresponds with which posture. So to begin, we are in high plank, Phalakasana. On our inhale, we shift forward. Exhale to Chaturanga Dandasana, lower. Inhale, upward facing dog, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, and exhale to downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Chinook is demonstrating upward facing dog. Very good. Yes, very good job. You'll see this often in a vinyasa yoga class, which is why I wanted to break this down for you. The first posture, high plank, Phalakasana, we want a hand lock with the hands. So we want a wide grip with the hands. We want to be gripping with our fingers, pressing through the knuckles. So that's where we'll start. And from here, you're actually spinning the biceps forward and the triceps back. So this eye of your elbow here, you're rotating forward, engaging through the muscles and not just putting all of your weight into the wrists, into the shoulders, into the joints, shoulders stacked over wrists. And then we are aligning the heels over the ball of the foot, as you can see. And we want the body here in one long line from the heels through the crown of the head And to give you a modification for this pose, you can drop the knees to the mat. Let me show you a very important transition that when we're moving through the breath, this is sometimes lost, and this again makes a huge difference in your alignment. From high plank, if we're considering the breath with the movement here, the inhale is actually a shift forward from high plank. So as you can see, I'm back here, the heels are stacked over the balls of the feet. And when I shift forward on my inhale, I'm almost raising up onto the tips of my toes as far as I can, and this is giving me proper alignment to now lower into Chaturanga Dandasana. The tweaks that you make in these poses, and in Chaturanga Dandasana especially, are going to have such an impact in your overall practice, and they're going to, again, provide you that longevity to continue practicing and avoid injuries. So for Chaturanga Dandasana, we take this from the high plank pose, from the shift forward. That is then when we begin to lower, we bend first at the elbows, and the strength is in the biceps, the triceps, as you're lowering the chest rather than the joints, the shoulders. So again, I'll show you this from my knees just so that I can give you the proper alignment as well. So the inhale, we shift it forward, exhale, bend through the elbows, and Chaturanga Dandasana is this right here. So this kind of lowered push-up position is your Chaturanga Dandasana. There is such a difference in your joints and in what your muscles and your body is doing when you're actually taking a moment to hover in the Chaturanga Dandasana pose versus dropping from high plank onto your stomach. To modify and build more strength in your Chaturanga Dandasana, I highly recommend using blocks. So from here, you would place a block at the highest height, one block in front of each hand. If you have the knees lowered from your high plank, as you are lowering, bending through the elbows into your Chaturanga Dandasana, you're going to use the blocks as a guide for your shoulders. So as you bend, boop, there go my shoulders, right onto the top of the blocks. And that is a great guide to allow you to work through Chaturanga presses, Chaturanga push-ups, and build strength in this lifting and lowering movement. To advance, you may actually want to try a Chaturanga jump back, combining the first pose, the high plank, and the second pose, Chaturanga Dandasana, in one swift motion. So that would be an advancement that you can take. Instead of kind of stepping back into your high plank, placing the hands wide, beginning to shift the weight forwards as you are pressing through the hands, lifting, jumping back. But the thing here is you don't want to land with the arms straight because, again, so much pressure in your shoulder joint, in the entire shoulder girdle, but you want to land in this position with the elbows bent. That is, again, when you're jumping, any weight that is now coming back is distributing evenly into your muscles, into your joints, rather than landing in the shoulder girdle. From our Chaturanga Dandasana, we'll move into the third pose, which is upward facing dog, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Once you have lowered to the belly from your Chaturanga Dandasana, the hands will be under the shoulders, right next to the ribs, pressing through the palms and lifting, pressing again through the triceps, biceps, lifting the hips slightly off the mat. When I first started yoga and I was still building strength in my shoulders, I would always be kind of hunched over like this in my upward facing dog, where the shoulders were taking all of the weight. So I do want you to focus on lifting through the chest, squeezing the shoulder blades together behind you, and tilting the pelvis slightly forward as you are lifting the hips, and the knees come up off the mat as well. Notice that when I'm in the upward facing dog, I'm not overextending. Instead, we want just kind of length. We want to feel length through the crown of the head and I'm not throwing the head back. I'm kind of keeping my gaze forward and imagining lifting through the crown of the head. To modify from your upward facing dog, you wouldn't actually go into upward facing dog. You could instead go into Cobra, Bhujangasana pose. Instead of pressing and really lifting the hips, lifting the knees up off the mat, you can keep the palms here, pressing through the palms, leaving the hips, leaving the knees resting on the mat, and just coming into a cobra, a slight back bend. The fourth and final pose in our sequence is downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. So from our third pose, our upward facing dog, or our cobra, if you were modifying, we are flipping the tops of the toes. So one at a time, I like to flip the toes back to their original position as I am lifting through the core and shifting the hips back into downward facing dog. What we're really looking for here is length through the spine. So engaging through the core, pressing up and out. So again, instead of sinking into the shoulders, into the wrists here, kind of dropping your weight in this pose, press through the hands, press through the knuckles of the hands, lift up and out through the shoulders. You can bend through the knees, and that is where you're getting the most in this pose. Great modification, take a deep bend in the knees in your downward facing dog. This creates more length through the spine. The heels do not have to be on the mat. So you may see some yogis that have the heels, have the hamstring flexibility to keep the heels down. Completely not necessary. Again, take what feels best in your body. As a modification, you can shift back into a child's pose instead of a downward facing dog. That was our breakdown of this Vinyasa flow today. So as you can see, the 4 poses, so many modifications to make. That is what I really want you to keep in mind. This to me is such an important sequence as you're practicing yoga to learn and to really honor yourself through. And take what you need, build the strength, try the Chaturanga push-ups. Make sure that these poses and this flow is coming from your strength, from your muscles, and not just sinking through, going through the motions. This will make such a difference in your practice. And again, going back to that word of vinyasa, placing in a particular way, moving with intention, that is what we want to be doing in this sequence. I hope this video was helpful for you today. I really want you to feel confident in your yoga practice and feel like you can meet yourself at the level that you are at, and also continue to evolve and progress and build strength to create longevity in your practice. Thank you for joining me today. This was Om Monica, and I will leave you with an Om.